Welcome to Who Put This On, Season 5, Episode 23, where we watch the Boulet Brothers Dragula, Season 3, Episode 1. I'm Chris Lorenz.
I'm Harrison Hoffman.
Hey, this is James.
This is Brian.
This is Maxi Glamour. They made it easy for me this week.
Welcome, everyone. If this is your first time watching or listening, I guess, we watch a different reality show each week where we watch one episode, discuss how good, bad, in utter minutia. So welcome as we watch the show. Harrison, why don't you tell us what it is?
10 queens must slay the competition and put their fiercest, filthiest faces forward for the chance to be crowned the world's next drag super monster. That's the Boulet Brothers Dragula on Netflix. And
Out TV, some sort of Canadian broadcast. So there you have it. This is an interesting one. It's like RuPaul mixed with like Halloween costumes. It's very like they're committed to this bit.
They're not just Halloween costumes. This is a Halloween horror nightmare show. Let's be
Well, I mean,
it's got
like,
some
very clear. They are not messing around.
it's definitely like RuPaul like combined with like horror movies. How about that? Where
fear
it's-
factor.
Fear factor?
Thank you, Brian.
There's definitely some fear factor in this. I'll give you that. So give a broad overview of what happens in this episode. Some weird things happen.
Take it away.
So the show kicks off with a skit where somebody's in an ambulance and somebody dies. There's just like this horror skit that has nothing to do with the rest of the show. We got to talk about
Chris
that.
is
That was
doing an
first.
awful job explaining this.
We'll get back to it. Horror skit. We'll get to that. Then they introduce the 10 contestants and the two main hosts. And the hosts and the contestants are dressed up in drag and weird costumes and completely ignored. Then they go backstage and there's a lot of just drama between the 10 contestants. We get to know them all. And there's some great quotes from them introducing themselves, which we'll get to. Then they dress up as supervillains. They get judged in their supervillain costumes. They pick the top one, the bottom two with 2 extra judges, blah, blah, blah. We'll get to it, I guess. And the bottom 2 have to go on a challenge, which is skydiving, and one person doesn't do it. So they're kicked off. And when you get kicked off, you do a horror movie skit where you die, where somebody murders you, which was really fun.
If you lose in the
I'm not
game,
gonna
you die
lie.
in real life.
We'll get die in real life. That was really fun. So that was the general overview of this episode, and it was pretty long. It was a long episode. It's a 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 50 minutes.
Like that's longer than like any reality show I think we've ever done. Because
Chris, that was impressive. You just crushed that description. That was the most succinct thing I've heard in a while of a great way to sum up this hot mess of a show. You nearly lost the wheels towards the end, but then you really brought it home. I was really nervous for you, but I gotta give it to you. That was impressive.
all right. Thanks, James. We gotta talk about the beginning of this thing. What is this skit thing?
This is
I'm
introing
so
the
fucking
hosts.
confused.
It was introing the hosts.
Those are the hosts?
Yeah, the Boulet brothers were the 2 people underneath the.
No way, really?
Yeah.
That was not clear at all.
Was I the only one that got that?
Yeah, I have no idea.
No,
what
it
you're
was
talking
very obvious.
In what
I
way?
feel,
That was
feeling right now we're.
about. Wait. Hold on. Take a step back. So
no eyes.
there was some guy that he was like dying. Then like 2 people came in an ambulance. And then the person that was dying got up and murdered them. Like, who was the Boulet?
Okay, there is like a morgue, and there are 2 dead bodies in the morgue. It may be a hospital. It doesn't matter. They are loaded into an ambulance. The people in the ambulance are like sort of talking rumors about, I heard they, cut somebody up and then put makeup on them, just drag jokes. And then these two sort of seemingly dead corpses wake up and kill everybody in the ambulance. And then they kill a third guy who walks across the ambulance, and that's about it. Anyway, they're the hosts, the Boulet brothers.
Okay, that makes way more sense.
I have one correction. There's one correction. They're not dead in the beginning. They say, like, the two hospital workers say that, like, oh, they're sedated enough for, like, to be out for months. And it's just foreshadowing that, like, oh, they're going to wake up during this whole thing.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So it was just a weird way. We all said, like, is this a reality show? Like, what's going on here? So that's kind of the intro we're talking
about. The theatrics are too much.
And that's it. We're going to move on from that. There's nothing really to say from that. But let's see. It's unclear. So that when they intro all the contestants, like, they're all just dressed up as what? Like, they're just dressed up as something. And I was very confused.
Their go-to.
But why was that not a competition there? Like, what's the point of having them to sit there and dress up?
Okay, so let me explain for our listeners. Okay, so the 10 contestants who are drag queens or kings, they show up. You don't want them to just be there in their normal state, their wake up out of bed state. You want them to be dressed up in some sort of thing. And Chris is like, "What's the theme?" Blah blah blah. The theme is just be dressed up. That's what you do on this show.
I mean, the theme is be dressed up in some kind of scary or terrifying way.
Right? Some of them were
it's
sort
like,
of scary.
Definitely horror theme, like, all the time.
It's like horror, grotesque, Halloween-y. I don't know how else to describe it.
There was somebody dressed up that looked like Dobby and got called Dobby at some point. It was like some guy in white with a long nose that looked really like bad and weird.
One of them only uses masks. That was Dobby. It was great.
Yeah.
That was a highlight of the episode.
It was a hell of an intro for all these people. How many people are on? There were so many. I totally lost track of how many people on the show.
I think there's 10
people. We're not going to go over them because no one remembers who they are. So
no, for sure. Just like, but what's the rough, like, are we talking like 10, 12?
There's 10 people.
10. Okay, thank you. It seemed like there was 20.
The whole beginning of the show is just like very, very unsettling, though. It's like there's this kind of weird skit, and then the hosts come out and they're like, they have these insane pure white eyes, and they're dressed up like in a terrifying way. Basically, like, I'm not sure how to describe it. They're these are the Boulet brothers, who the show is named after. But yeah, it's just like, and then all these contestants come out, and they're all like, there's people dressed up in crazy ways. There's someone who's like, mouth is like sewn shut. There's like all like just the most horrific costumes. Like, it's just like a really unsettling way to start this. And like the show definitely really kind of caught me off balance for the first part of it, for sure. And then kind of when we transition into this next part, I kind of started to get a little bit better of a feel for it.
I mean, so side tangent here. I want to. We have to have our tangents. So like every year we do like a Halloween-esque show or two, and they're usually just like the worst shit on TV. They're just like terrible. They're like super generic cooking show, or like I went into this house and pretended I heard shit, or I'm looking for some thermals. Like, it's just dumb. Like, this is by far the best. This is the best Halloween show I've ever seen.
Bottom of that? Whoa. That travesty will not stand, Chris.
What?
You can't just be tossing around the Sasquatch show in the bottom like it's common house trash.
The Sasquatch show is not Halloween themed at all.
Yeah, I was really trying to refer to Ghost Adventures or Ghost stuff, but like...
Hey, well, there's only one good use of thermals, and everyone knows that it's Sasquatches.
Anyway, back to this show, which is the best Halloween themed reality show I've ever seen. Like, the music was very scary, like setting the tone really well. All the challenges were done really well. Like, they're spooky. They're like really trying to bring the horror vibes to the whole thing. So like,
there's nothing spookier than jumping out of an airplane.
They definitely tried to make things spookier than they really are. So like, a valid point, Max. Like when they're all on the backstage, like gossiping, like that's not spooky, Max. They're just talking backstage. But like they tried to play music to make it seem spookier than it really was, like throughout the whole episode.
But I think it was more than just lip service to spookiness.
Okay. Let's bring it back to they intro these 10 people, they intro themselves, and then they have to pick quote unquote contracts where they like pull rocks, and if there's one rock that has you win a trip after the competition. The other rock is like something bad will happen, and they tee it up that you read it. We're not going to know till you get it, and then you get it, and then they figure out that they have to eat live spiders. And this dude,
Fear Factor,
or this person, like just comes in, takes this like glass vial of spiders, and just shooters it. He just shoots them down his throat, like it's so quick. You're just like not prepared.
Good God, it was so terrifying. I couldn't watch the screen.
One, they were the tiniest spiders I've ever seen. Two, there were not that many spiders in that jar. Three, they just dumped it over their head, and at least 90% of the spiders just did not go in their mouth. So,
oh yeah, I don't know if he ate one spider there,
but
I think they got one, but like
an attempt was made.
It was done super well though. Like,
oh yeah,
you're like, oh, I can't watch that guy. I can't watch it. I just assumed it wasn't going to be real spiders, like it was going to be like fake spiders with some, but no, those are real spiders.
And it just gave me some Tony Time vibes. Just ready to eat whatever he wants.
Man, not a lot of food challenges in the last challenge.
That was the only food challenge.
There was not that many food challenges. Name one.
In what?
The last challenge.
The Last Jedi?
Yeah, I'm just saying, Brian's win at Tony Time. There's not been a lot of food challenges in the last episode of the challenge, or last season of the challenge.
Oh, we can't be talking about the challenge. We'll go.
I know it was a
tangent.
Chris, I have something to say.
Okay, Max.
Okay, on the challenge, did you know that Tony's name is actually Charles?
That's
okay. So now they're backstage, and then they go around the table saying their real names and exactly like what their quote unquote drag life is or something. I don't know. There's some really good quotes from this section. I think it's probably a valid time to read some of those quotes instead of our questions at the end, which a lot of these would definitely go there because they're like not super interesting, but I think overall they're pretty funny. Somebody said that they were classic Tanya Harding drag. So if you want to get beat up, let her know. So I think that's still the case. So if you run into whoever that was that said that, you can get beat up. Somebody also said they haven't electrocuted anyone yet on the show. I don't know if that means that somebody was electrocuted last season or the season before. I think that's what that would insinuate, right?
Yeah.
Would that be more spooky horror show to you, Harrison, than jumping out of a plane?
I mean, 100%. It's definitely more of a spooky situation. I mean, I think that when the plane jump kind of happened, it kind of broke the spooky vibe a little bit. Like they go outside and it's daylight and they're kind of interacting with other like real people, and it just kind of got weird.
All right. Next quote I've got. Brian, do you have a quote written down?
So there was like one guy who was just burning everybody, and he made this burn on like Hollow, who described herself as like a post-binary socialist with a penchant for anarchy. It makes no fucking sense.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
Hey,
I had that down,
dude,
too.
You know who that guy was? Because like that was unreal how much he's burning.
Oh, I don't know. I know who that person was.
Was it the one in sort of pink or salmon?
I don't think so.
But yeah, Hollow Eve was very, very much respect for the non-binary folk out there. This person describes himself as a post-binary socialist. They're just asking to be not liked by people, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. I got another quote here for you guys. Somebody described themselves as a technicolor psychopathic sex clown.
Oh yeah. That was the donut person, I think.
I thought that's a great quote. I don't know if this is a drag specific thing, but everyone's calling it themselves like to other people like bitches, which is
that's a drag.
Yeah.
I think if Annabeth was here, I could get some good answers. Let's see.
Chris, what is fishy?
Okay, yeah. So somebody dropped quote unquote the fish bomb. So fishy, according to the RuPaul website, the RuPaul wiki, fishy is like passing as a woman while you're in drag. It is a reference to how a vagina smells sometimes. So fishy means you pass as a woman. So they didn't describe that in the show at all. Like somebody said, "Oh, you look fishy," and they're like, "Oh no, you didn't drop that fish bomb." And then we're like, "What?"
I mean,
there was like multiple people went in and out of their like confessionals talking about fishy, and we're like, "What's fishy?" So like, I don't know if we're the target audience for the show at all. Like they're not introing.
We are not the target audience for this show.
I guess
I'm not the target audience for most shows.
Let's see. Do I have another quote written down? Hold on. Let me.
Somebody said that they were aiming for the 3 S's: sexy, spooky, and sparkly, which I thought was great.
I thought it was sex. I wrote down sexy, sequency, sparkly.
Nah, it's gotta be sexy, spooky, and sparkly.
I mean, that's what a regular person would have said. Let's see. There was also an interesting segment where like one of the women or guys were like, who do you think's gonna get kicked out first? Like, and then they aired like everyone talking about it. I'm like, why do I care what they like them just burning each other and about who's gonna get kicked out? Like, it was just such a weird segment.
That's just a lot.
Airtime. It's just the producer saying, "Hey, you have to talk about this," and just burn people.
But like,
I think that like that's just a primary entertainment factor. Like it's just I want to burn people, and then you just gotta. They keep on doing the zingers and like these type of shows. RuPaul's Drag Race was big on zingers, and that's like the primary form of entertainment. Some people like to manufacture drama. This is just above it.
I've got another quote. Somebody said that they were a chameleon Sasquatch because their outfit like was hiding all of their like hair. So let's see, what else do I have written down?
The person with the mask said something like, "I'm from Canada and I'm 2,000 years old" or something like that. They were like fully committed to.
Yeah, I've been drag for 2,000 years or something. That was great.
Yeah.
This wasn't in this segment, but like before this, the hosts were like, I think in their intro segment, they were like drag, filth, horror, glamour as like, I guess the theme for the show. It was kind of weird. In terms of like why horror and then went to glamour after that. I guess after this, they come back the next day, right? And basically they plan what their outfits are going to be. But the show doesn't make it very clear to us that they're trying to be supervillains. Like, we didn't get that they were trying to be supervillains until like they came out on stage where the hosts were like, now here are the supervillains. We're like, this was supposed to be supervillains? They did a terrible job of like introing this like challenge.
Well, I mean, there was basically no intro, and like one weird thing that happened is they were all like, getting in their makeup and like doing their costumes and everything, and they seemed like they were pretty early and kind of getting ready, and then like the loudspeaker comes on like wah wah, like the show floor or whatever it's called is opening right now, like whatever, like, oh no, I'm not done. You said we're gonna have 3 hours, and they kind of like scrambled to get everything ready. But then they came out and they all looked like perfect and not, rushed at all. So I'm not really sure what happened in the middle there.
Like, this was really weird. They were like in half makeup, right? And then they came out on the stage in full like outfits. Yeah. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, like, their makeup was done.
Stuff. People had made like all sorts of stuff and like fabricated things. I don't know. Like, it was just like they jumped the gun, and the show did a terrible job at two things. One, the transition from that scene and not explaining why there was a time crunch, and then immediately jumping to now we're somehow done. And then second, not teeing up what the theme or the rules or like the guidelines were in any sort of way. And so you're just left blind. And so the first person walks out, and you're like, what in the hell is that? That's the wildest thing I've ever seen. And then like 5 people deep are like, oh, there's a theme. Okay, I kind of get what's going on here. But terrible job. Like, this has to be one of the worst production moments that like we've seen of like the entire podcast. This was terribly explained.
So I got 2 things for you, James. So one thing was that the Boulet brothers came out on stage and said supervillains before anyone else came out. So like, I got it then, but I could still see how you'd miss it to not understand that they're supervillains.
Yeah.
And then 2, this like shows in a weird state where like most of what like people want to watch is like them coming out on stage and seeing their outfits and costumes.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to spoil it realistically by showing them like getting ready. Like I could see that kind of spoiling that moment. So like I could see why they wouldn't want to show it. So like this like bit, the time's running out, is super weird, but it's an excuse to not show. I don't understand why they did that, but like I could see why we didn't get like more of what was going on and how they were constructed.
Yeah, I get it.
Knocking them for not showing me the evolution of their costume. That's fine. I'm knocking them purely for not teeing up the segment.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Like, that's when I really have a beef with here.
Yeah, I think that comes down to just like the people watching the show and the people they think are watching the show like have seen all of this and know exactly what's going.
Oh, sure.
They're like RuPaul experts, and you've just like watched it and you know what's coming. So like,
well, now that you know what the show is, like as a person that has never seen the show, I had no idea what was going on. Totally, like if I were to watch another episode, it would not be as much of a surprise. So I totally get there, but as a first-time viewer, incomprehensible what was happening.
No, it gets some dinks for sure, James, for sure. Max, you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, so we're already at kind of the costume reveal section, but there is one segment that we didn't cover earlier that I think we really need to dig into, which is there's somebody who has staples in their face, and they ask if other people want to pull the staples out of their face.
Yeah,
Cool.
This is really cements the like horror part of this whole show.
Oh, absolutely. All of us were losing our minds when this first came up.
And she has been wearing them for hours, quote unquote. Like nuts.
This is also Hollow, right? This is like the same post-binary socialist.
Person.
Yeah.
She's metal as fuck.
Well, then she stapled somebody else. Like, hey, do you want to get stapled? And they were like, yeah. When I got a tattoo here, it was super painful. This was nothing. And then somebody tried to pull out the staple.
Yeah, someone tried to
and just did it wrong.
Yeah. When somebody tried to pull out that person's staple, that was horrific. It looked like their skin was about to rip off. It was terrible.
James was about to kill me after seeing this part of the episode.
Oh, this was horrible.
I mean, that leads into her costume reveal for the supervillain, and I can't believe she didn't win with this. She put staples all over her face, and then they tied it to her fingers, and like just pulled the fingers and pulled her skin. It looked incredibly painful and like intriguing all at the same time. Like it was.
Chris, you should be a judge.
I'm practicing.
It's got to be the cover of this.
I think so. I think if you look at our show description, you will see a photo of this, or it could be too disturbing. I don't know. Are we 18 plus podcast? Like,
Yes.
We are now.
yeah, I can't believe this one. She like went so deep. She had so many staples in her face.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any other notable costumes that were out there? All right, go ahead, James.
Okay, so this one wasn't the notable costume, but you mentioned tattoos. And
Oh, yeah.
I think the person you're talking about later goes on in the show to explain their tattoo origins. And it turns out that this person did their first tattoos at the age of 14 to themselves.
Yeah.
Whoa.
There's some weird
I didn't
people on
realize
the
that.
show.
Self and like, to be fair, like the tattoos, like from what you could see, like look pretty good, like from at least whatever they showed of it. But my goodness, I just couldn't imagine. Whew. I didn't know that was a thing that people do.
It's like a prison tattoo, but your prison is your home, like your home. Because you're just doing it at home.
Can I tell you guys a fun family story?
Sure, Max.
All right. I have a cousin. He's really cool. He's in like punk bands. One time, actually, I'm going to hang out with him tomorrow. But anyway, one time he's over at my parents' place with me. And he's showing my mom, who's a doctor, a tattoo he did to himself of the word like family on his thigh. My mom is like, out loud saying, "Oh, wow, cool." But I know deep in the back of her mind, she is screaming, "Why the fuck would you tattoo yourself?" Anyway, he leaves. She asks me, "Why the fuck would you tattoo yourself?" And yeah, that's some family history.
Why is her mom's like, why does she speak her mind? Why is she just trying to be so polite? Like,
she's a complicated lady.
okay. So another contestant that came out, which I am very confused by, and I hope someone can explain this to me. She came out as a meat. She was just a giant piece of meat. And I was,
Yeah.
what kind of supervillain is this, Brian? Can you tell me? Because I am mystified.
She made the joke that like she was like the enemy of like vegans everywhere. But I mean, like, it's just, I think she described it as like meat like pollutes a lot. It does a lot of damage to the environment. Like it's bad to just eat that. So it's like a supervillain thing. Like it's just such an evil meat thing.
So bad. Like I
don't even get it really. Like I'm just
immediately. Some of what the judges said were like, she's a grocery store mascot. She can fight the vegan, which there's somebody on the stage that was vegan. But man, dude, she was like, it was terrible. It was just like, if you've seen Bob's Burger, it's just like two
Violencia exclamation point.
What was that, Max?
Violencia exclamation point is the name of this drag queen.
Okay. Yeah, so she is in the bottom two, obviously, and then doesn't skydive because it's her number one fear or something like that. And we spend like way too long for her not to skydive, it was terrible. The other bottom two was like somebody that was like a Super Saiyan kind of outfit, who's wearing some sort of Saiyan armor and like tried to have like the headgear from like Dragon Ball Z kind of. And
I'm actually going to say it's more of a Namekian look, if I'm going to be honest.
It did look bad, like comparatively to everyone else, but it was definitely trying to be more than just like leather, like Catwoman outfit, like that's just boring. I mean, I don't know. Let's see.
It was better than being just a steak costume.
Steak. I'm still confused. So the top costume was like somebody that dressed in like white and black and had like red eyes and had like a giant D. She had a giant D.
Oh, it was Dahlia.
Phrasing.
Are we still saying phrasing? Yeah, I mean, it looked pretty good. I liked the America costume more, but
Like the American costume.
That's about
what
it.
is a bigger villain than America?
America.
Fuck
Let's
yeah.
see. What other notes do I have written down for this segment? Does anyone know who the judges were or give a fuck about who the other two judges are?
No.
There
I
was
see a lot of shaking heads.
artists and some other drag queen cosplay person, I think.
One thing to note about Dahlia, the one that won the black and white, is that her tits were like out there. They're huge and they looked like they're just like the worst looking fake tits. They're so bad. That's my comment on them.
But to be clear, these are not like fake tits. These are like, glued to the body.
Yeah. I don't know what I have no idea. I just say this costume made it look really bad. Let's see. What else do I have written down? There was somebody with like super blue eyes in their confessionals.
That
Is
was
that like
I was
their contacts that
Okay.
you can get.
yeah, I was just wondering if they were contacts or not. But like a bunch of the people had like contacts that changed the color of their eyes. Like in the beginning they were all white, so like I assume those were contacts as well. And then there's the red eyes and the blue eyes. And I think there was a couple others too. Just not as prominent. I think one of the judges said slutty and demonic, two of my favorite things. Which was that's a pretty
That rings a bell.
And then they'd try to do this challenge at the end. I'm curious to see what the actual challenges look like when both people do them. Because if they both skydived, what the hell? What now? Do they do another challenge? Do they just keep escalating the fear factor?
So I was thinking about this. Here's how you do it with the skydiving challenge. Whoever releases their chute further down wins. And if you just never release it, then you're the winner of the season.
I mean, they were skydiving tandem, so not sure they could do that one, but I don't know. It's not like, eat worms and whoever eats the most like mealworms or whatever wins. You know, that would make sense. But like skydiving, like what? Like what? I'm so lost.
I don't know.
No idea.
Right into us, because I don't think any of us are gonna watch the next episode to figure it out. So let us know exactly what's going on with that. And then that's the end of the episode. So there's 9 people left. They're moving on to the next challenge that they may or may not describe well or not well at all. And that's it. Should we move on to some questions?
Yes, please.
All right.
Yeah.
Who's the worst human being on the show? I assume most people are going to go with the staple lady. Because
it's staple lady.
She's the post-binary socialist with anarchy, and like just that costume with the pulling her face, like, ugh, give me shivers.
And much respect for being pull it off. Ugh.
I think another.
Can I put up a second place contestant?
The second place?
Yaksa. Yeah, Yaska, the one who's like, I'm 20,000 years old, being pretentious with the mask.
I feel like it's the one that was like burning people and I don't remember who it was. I feel like they were worse than that person. Just like putting people down on their costumes.
Yeah, although I feel like I think I know who that was. That was Madeline Hatter.
So that's up for contention.
I'm sure that was just producers fucking with people.
Yeah. So we're all the post-binary drag person.
Socialist.
I think is our contestant or is our winner this week. Is this an apex upgrade or downgrade for the host?
That So I didn't realize this. We watched season 3, episode 1. So I'm gonna say neither.
I mean, these people, which I have no idea who they are, have their own show. And it's like, you got RuPaul's Drag Race, right? Then you've got, how many other drag shows have you ever heard of? This one, right? So
Yeah.
like, I mean, this got to be their apex, right?
Is this a popular show?
I have no idea.
Like,
So behind the scenes on what happened was I signed up for Shudder last week to watch a movie called The Host, which we can talk about later. But on Shudder, there is a documentary on the making of this show. And that's how I knew the show existed. And I was like, okay, well, we got Halloween shows. We got Cookie Cutter, bacon show. We got this show, and we got some sort of ghost thermal show in the woods. And then we chose this one.
I still disapprove of the thermal use. Reference to one show. Only.
All right. So what's the most baffling / cringeworthy moment?
Clearly, hands down, we beat it to death.
I know we beat the top of the top. We know what it is. Everyone knows what it is. We talked about it. Brian, do you have another one?
The spider chugging.
That's a good one. I like where your head's at. I went through too many of my notes. I don't really have a new one. So I don't really have one. Max, do you have one?
No.
I mean, I just feel like just the whole first 10 plus minutes of the show until you actually figure out what the fuck's happening, that's just is baffling. I have no idea.
I'll give you that. That's good. Let's move on to our favorite minor minutia. I went over a lot of my notes, so I don't really have any new ones. Brian, do you have anything?
There was a great quip against the Valencia exclamation point. I think it was, it's rare that someone could try and pull off a meat costume so well done. And the host said it with such a straight face, and there was no reaction. It was amazing that this didn't land.
Oh, I do have one. So in the segment where they were introing all the costumes on stage, somebody turned around, bent over, and unzippered her butt and mooned the judges.
Oh yeah.
That
right.
that goes with my bit of minutia, which is that there's somebody on this show whose name is Louisiana Purchase. Was the one that pulled out their butt there.
I mean, some great names on the show for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, but hands down, best name of the show.
Oh yeah.
What about Max? What's the Max one? Max?
Maxi Glamour, boring.
But it's got Max in it though.
It's no Louisiana Purchase, Chris.
It's no Louisiana Purchase.
Max, do you have a minor minutia?
I feel like we have a
Nah, I'm good.
Sorry, we're cutting you off, James. Go ahead, James. No, not gonna get back to it.
I don't know.
One thing to say about the minor minutia though is I'm just gonna keep cutting James off. Is the segment where they show the costumes was done super well. Thought that they had a lot of.
Oh, it was very well edited.
And you got to it felt like they were real monsters and they came out and it was just it was just super entertaining and a really cool vibe to it. I don't know how else to describe it, but I thought they did a really good job there. Also, the music in this show was really good. They definitely set the vibe for the whole show.
Very spooky.
Some really cool Halloween horror music going on in the show.
They didn't play the Monster Mash though.
I'm not sure that's the tone they were looking for, but yeah, they did not.
It was a graveyard smash, Chris.
So let's get some drinking rules on the books. Brian, give it to me.
Every time that somebody that you're watching this with says "what the fuck" out loud, you have to drink.
What if you say "what the fuck"?
That's also fine.
Yeah, I think you. Yeah, I like yours, but I think you got to drink when you say "what the fuck" too.
No, for sure, but like it grows as you like watch it with people.
Harrison, what do you got for me?
Oh man, I'm not
Where
sure
to start?
rules here.
I think any like quip or like is a good drink. Just like somebody's burning somebody. I feel like that happens a lot. That's a good drink. Max, you have one?
Every second you're watching the show, take a drink.
All right.
We're gonna die.
Actually, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not bottom of the bottom.
I feel like if you want to really get drunk, you should just take a drink every time you see a new costume. Just like
I like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's not for like a hey, I'm gonna have a casual drink. Like it's gonna be some drinking. Let's see. What do you think the production schedule of this show is? Harrison, I know you'd love this question.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they can probably only do like one of these big challenges per day where they have to get dressed up and do the walk. So I feel like they probably do that, and then maybe the next day they do one of these elimination challenges, and then they do another dress up one. I don't know.
What do you mean? There's only one challenge.
What do you mean?
So like they came onto the set dressed up, but like I don't think they do that every week.
No, well there was like the main challenge, which was the supervillain one, and then there's the jumping out of the airplane elimination challenge.
Yeah, but I think those were the same day. They were dressed the same makeup. Like
I guess they were kind of dressed the same.
it's just like I was also confused. Like you're in the studio, it's dark, you think it's nighttime, but then they went out and it was daytime, and I'm like, oh, but they look exactly the same. It's not like they did the next day and got dressed up again. It's certainly the same.
Well, I mean, we know that one of them at least got dressed up again to shoot that short scene or whatever where they die.
True.
I don't know when they're shooting that, but
I think it's a 2-week shoot. I think there's going to be enough downtime that people are going to need, and like some of the challenges will last longer than like a day, or like you'll need to do the elimination the next day or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's 10 people. Yeah, you could probably get this done in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think that's all. That's all we really need to know. We don't have Noah here to do any internet research, so this is your half-assed. What do we think the production schedule is? We already talked about who inspired the show. I don't think we need to talk about that. So let's get into our favorite question, ratings. So we do a stack ranking system where we do stack rank each reality show against other reality shows, where we have top, middle, bottom. Some people stack rank in their stack ranks, which you will hear. Brian, why don't you give me your rating?
I think I got to put it in the bottom of the middle. Like, I don't think it was as bad as like other shows we've seen, and I had some enjoyment. I got nothing else for that.
All right, Max, what do you got for me? You're muted, Max, so we cannot hear you. Nor can anyone.
Sorry about that. Bottom of the middle sounds perfect to me. So for comparison, the other two shows we had as possibilities today were decorating a cake but it's Halloween, or decorating a pumpkin and it's Halloween. Those were both going to be bottom of the bottom. We all fucking know it. This was better than that by quite a bit. Now, like, was I spooked out? Yeah, but that just means the show is doing its job. So yeah, I'm going to say middle third, bottom of the middle. I'm never going to watch another episode, but it wasn't awful.
All right, Harrison. What about you?
Yeah, I think kind of surprisingly, this is going to be a middle third show. I think that like when I first started watching the start of the episode, like I thought this was definitely going to be a bottom third show because the first 10 or so minutes of the show is pretty disorienting and wild and scary in some ways and unsettling, which is kind of like part of the point. But then I think once you kind of start to understand like what the show is, you kind of meet the contestants, you see them start to put their makeup and costumes together and see like the kind of super villain stuff and all that. Like I think it kind of really kind of came together. The costumes are really cool. They do a pretty good job with that stuff. So I don't know, middle third. I don't know if I'm gonna watch more. Maybe I'd watch one more to see how it is, but I don't know.
All right, James, what do you got for me?
I did not like the show. Bottom third. It's not the most offensive show in terms of like overall, so I don't know. Let's say like middle to bottom.
All right, I agree. I think it's a middle third show. I think it's a little meandering, but I did enjoy like the music and the tone, and just like I think the outfits were really interesting to see. I think it's a standard competition show, so like I don't really care to watch anymore. But like overall, it was fine, which says a lot when that goes in the middle when you've got some other garbage out there. So that's it. That's our discussion of Dragula or whatever Boulet brothers thing is. Anyway, we got shout outs. So I watched The Host last week, as I talked about. That was pretty good. Like I think that it's like a Zoom based horror show, so it's perfect for your 2020 Halloween needs, where you've been on Zoom. I guarantee it at this point, so and they perform a seance through Zoom, and things go a little astray, which
I am definitely thinking of a different movie. Never mind.
Different movie, probably, because this is a Shudder exclusive, so you need to get it on Shudder. And I think, Harrison, you had a question for me.
I actually had a question for Brian. I understand that you've watched that Adam Sandler Netflix Halloween joint. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Brian and I watched this together.
Oh, you watched it together? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Me, Noah, and Chris watched it. It was an enjoyable romp, as long as like you're not sober. Like the one thing that was about it was that like it had like its slow moments, but the moments that like hit home really hit home, like the t-shirts.
Yeah,
just keep an eye out for those.
The t-shirts are great, Brian. I agree. I think it's a good sit. It's funny. There's actually funny moments in it, which is like better than any Adam Sandler movie I've seen in the last 5 years. So like, or 10 years. Who knows the last funny Adam Sandler movie I've seen. So like, I think this is like on an upswing. I think that it's like it's got some Water Boy kind of vibes to it, just like a weird guy that's just like down to earth and like good, like a good guy, and he's trying to do some good, and like some stuff happens, and there's like a interesting actual mystery that like going like plot line that goes through the movie, and I'd actually recommend it as long as you are not sober. I agree.
All right.
Brian, do you have any other shout outs?
I finally watched The Witcher. I haven't watched it until now, but I'm catching up on like all the popular shows. Next is Mandalorian.
Oh, you're not going in chronological order though, apparently. Anyway, what did you think of The Witcher?
Thought it was extremely good. Like, I know why I've put it off for so long, because it's just an hour-long, intense session, and I just can't binge like that anymore.
Yeah, your short attention span. But we did just watch an hour reality show, so
I couldn't really pay attention to that either. But like, no, this is more like I need to process this versus like I need to go do something else.
Harrison, you have any shout outs this week?
Oh man, I don't know. So I mean, past couple of months, and I think that I'm like the latest one ever to the party on this, but I've been watching Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix and Legend of Korra, and it's been really, really, really good. That stuff's all on Netflix now, so definitely would recommend checking that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Avatar season 3, great stuff.
Oh yeah.
James, you have a shout out?
No, not this week.
Max, you got one?
You know, I've been watching a lot of television, a lot of movies, and there was one thing that I watched that I enjoyed the hell out of, and I can't remember what it was. So,
one last shout out is I don't normally advertise other podcasts, but Binge Mode is back. Love me some Binge Mode. So watch Iron Man this week. They released Iron Man. They're doing all the Marvel shows, all Marvel shows, Marvel movies. So I recommend getting on the Marvel chain while it's still new. And that's it for us this week. You can find us on Twitter at Who Put This On. You can find us on Facebook.com/Who Put This On. You can email us questions and suggestions at whoputthison@gmail.com. And we'll see you guys next time.
show on FX called Oh Jerome No. It's just like it's a comedy series. It's cute. It's fun. It's short. You can take care of it in 2 hours.
It's on Hulu then?
It sure is.